Today, the Matt Walsh Show, millions of people rally around a foreign truck driver who killed 3 Americans. Tribalism is a fundamental fact of human nature. It's time that our immigration laws account for that. Also, Zohran Mamdani tries to win over male voters by showing off his bench pressing skills. It does not go well. And a guy carrying an umbrella on a college campus triggers widespread panic and a lockdown. Talk about all that and more today on the Matt Walsh Show. You guys have heard me talk about the bearskin hoodie. Well, the smart people are locking in their winter gear now because this is hands down the best time to prep for the coming winter. Bearskin is running a 60% off deal right now, but only if you get your hoodie early. This hoodie is built like a tank, 340 GSM micro fleece, 10 pockets, with a clean, rugged fit that looks awesome. Plus, it zips right into the heavy storm rain jacket to be 100% waterproof when you need it. So when it turns cold, wet, windy, you're not scrambling last minute. We'll insert some photos here of me wearing the jacket, which I wear it all the time. I cannot recommend this jacket enough. And you know, the other thing I like about it is very lightweight. So it's lightweight, it's breathable. So if it's cold out, you're warm. But if it warms up a bit, you're not going to be sweating. Just a great quality jacket, and it looks great. It even makes me look good, which if it can do that, then it can do that for anyone. You'll get free U.S. shipping, fast delivery, and you've locked in your winter gear already. That's a win-win. So do yourself a favor, text the word MATT to 36912 to lock in your 6% off. Again, text MATT to 36912. You get a link sent straight to your phone so you can check it out later if you're busy right now. Don't wait till you're freezing to realize your hoodie sucks. Right now is the time to upgrade your hoodie. Get a bearskin right now while it's 6% off. Text MATT to 36912. Other than the September 11th attacks, the single most deadly act of aviation terrorism in world history is one you've probably never heard of, and there's a very clear reason for that, although you're not supposed to talk about it. In June of 1985, Air India Flight 182 from Toronto to Bombay blew up in midair over the coast of Ireland. A total of 329 people, including 268 Canadian citizens, and 10 American citizens were killed by a bomb that had been checked onto the flight. Now, there was no doubt that the attack was directly related to the surge of Sikh immigration to Canada in the late 1960s. Although only one person was convicted for his role in the attack, one Inderjeet Singh Ryat, several Indian separatists were implicated. It's a complicated backstory, but put simply, many Sikhs wanted a separate territory of their own, as they still do. And they were becoming militant, which made politics in India extremely volatile and dangerous. Therefore, because Canada was importing a lot of people from the same region where this was all happening, Canadian life was also becoming volatile and dangerous. But despite the large number of Canadian casualties on board Air India Flight 182, and despite the obvious implications for Canada's immigration policy, Canadians did not think of this attack as we think of September 11th. In fact, they didn't give the attack much thought at all. For decades, Canadians were dismissive of the idea that this bombing had any real significance to them whatsoever. They mostly ignored it, as did most Americans. During a public inquiry into the attack, one expert witness put it this way, quote, "Canadians do not recall June 23rd, 1985. As a nation, we were not shaken, transformed, and moved to change our own institutional practices for a tragedy we considered had little to do with us." The government of Canada didn't commemorate the lives of the victims for roughly 20 years after the attack. It wasn't until 2010, many decades later, that Canada's Prime Minister belatedly announced that, quote, "Canadians now understand that this atrocity was conceived in Canada, executed in Canada by Canadian citizens, and its victims were themselves mostly citizens of Canada." Now, this sudden reversal was not the result of any new evidence or investigation that took place after the attack in 1985. Instead, it was the result of the fact that Canada's Indian population has continued to surge since the 1960s, to the point that every Canadian politician now has to cater to this particular demographic. So does Canada's state broadcaster, which just ran a whole special about this bombing a few months ago, more than 40 years after the fact. Watch.
disappointing and hurtful that no one knows about this and they still think of this as a foreign tragedy. But this is really a Canadian tragedy. My sisters were on that flight. They were both Canadian citizens. There were 268 Canadians on that flight.
Canada's largest and most savage mass murder case. This was Canada's 9/11.
I think in our own Canadian psyche that has not adequately internalized the tragedy of that bombing. This was a homegrown terrorist act.
Canada lost its innocence. We thought of ourselves as a nice country, and we kept thinking of ourselves as a very nice country after the bombing, because we didn't really pay attention, because we didn't really think of them as Canadians, to be blunt about it. You know, they're Indian Canadians. They're hyphenated Canadians. They're somehow not us. It didn't really happen to us. It happened far away.
So Canada is suddenly rediscovering this attack decades later. They've concluded that in the past, Canadians ignored the mid-air bombing because of systemic racism against Indians. And now, in the name of equity, they're going to make things right. Meanwhile, over in India, it didn't take 40 years to figure out how they felt about this bombing. Instead, they grasped the concept that certain groups of people will commit mass murder in the name of ethnic nationalism, because in the end, tribalism is a basic fact of human nature. Whether you accept that fact or not, or whether you believe it's racist or politically incorrect or not, doesn't matter. Tribal violence is inevitable. Although no history book will admit it, the bombing of Air India Flight 182 established that Western governments, including both Canada and the U.S., have been intent for a long time on denying this basic truth. That's the real reason no one's ever heard of the bombing, even though it's the second deadliest terrorist attack on a passenger plane in history. It was an extremely inconvenient incident when you're trying to push the narrative that multiculturalism leads to utopia. So it's better to just ignore the whole mid-air plane explosion, Western leaders decided. Just don't think about all the foreign conflicts we're importing onto our soil and, the ramifications those conflicts might have. Don't think about the innocent people who are dying. Just pretend that it's not happening. The result of this approach, predictably enough, has been the continued inflow of large numbers of foreign nationals into the United States and Canada. And through it all, Western nations have consistently remained passive and disinterested. Our leaders have gone out of their way to ignore the extent to which foreign cultures are driven by tribalism rather than abstract principles, like justice or the rule of law. And that attitude needs to change. And the case of Harjinder Singh, the truck driver who killed 3 people on the Florida Turnpike by making an illegal U-turn a couple of weeks ago, is a prime example of why it needs to change. Now, we're all familiar with the details of the case at this point. We've talked about it a few times on the show. And indeed, even after the crash, Singh continued to implicate himself. One day after he blocked all of the freeway lanes on the Florida Turnpike, forcing a passenger van to impact his trailer, Singh and his passenger, Harneet Singh, was the passenger, reportedly fled from Florida to Sacramento. Investigators were concerned they'd leave the country for obvious reasons. At no point did Harjinder Singh demonstrate any remorse for what he had done. In the videos of the crash and its aftermath, he looks mildly annoyed, if anything. So if you're a rational person, you probably think that Harjinder Singh should face the maximum possible punishment for what he did. That's the only way to prevent him from wiping out more American families. But in his home country, they apparently don't see things that way. Instead, they're presenting Harjinder Singh as a victim of circumstances who deserves a very lenient sentence, if any. This is a video that was just uploaded by Indian MP Harsmarat Badal, is her name. We're not going to play the audio because she's not speaking English, so it won't do you much good, but she did upload this statement in English along with the footage, and the statement says, quote, "I appeal to the External Affairs Minister to take up Sikh truck driver Harjinder Singh's case with the United States government to ensure his rights, including that to wear a dastar, are protected, and he is not persecuted as a murderer. Harjinder committed a grave mistake which led to a fatal crash, but he is not a murderer and should not be treated as such. Also, more than 150,000 Punjabi Truck drivers in the U.S. should not be discriminated against due to Harjinder's mistake, and their livelihood should not be snatched from them by denying them work visas and making it more difficult for them to drive trucks by bringing in new language proficiency rules. So that's the whole statement. So anyway, she's calling for the Indian government to intervene in some way so that more drivers like Harjinder Singh can remain on our freeways. Now let's think about this for a second. This is a case that should have zero relevance to India or the government of India. The crash took place within the U.S. borders. The driver had been living in the U.S. for several years beforehand. All of the Punjabi drivers that she's talking about, by the same token, decided to leave India and come to the U.S. They're not under the jurisdiction of India's government in any way. And yet, this MP believes that it's her responsibility to get involved and tell the U.S. government how to enforce its laws and ensure that the roadways are safe. She's saying it's no big deal if Indians can't read the road signs or if they, kill Americans in their cars. And many of her countrymen agree with that, apparently. Fox reports that, quote, a petition urging Florida officials to show leniency toward Harjinder Singh, an illegal immigrant truck driver accused of causing a crash that killed 3 people, has garnered nearly 2.5 million signatures as of Sunday afternoon. The petition, posted on the website change.org and addressed to Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, calls for both DeSantis and the Florida Board of Executive Clemency to re-examine the case against the 28-year-old. Singh faces 3 counts of vehicular homicide and 3 counts of manslaughter in connection with the deadly August 12th crash. Now, the petition, which again has 2.5 million signatures, says, quote, we, the undersigned, respectively petition for clemency or sentence reduction on behalf of 28-year-old Punjabi man who, in a tragic and unintentional incident, caused a truck accident that resulted in the loss of 3 lives. Consider alternative sentencing options such as restorative justice measures, counseling, or community service aligning with both accountability and compassion. Yes, they want Harjinder Singh to go to a couple of counseling sessions. That's the ideal punishment after he killed 3 people on the freeway. Really, he just needs to, talk about his feelings. When he looked back and saw the van crumple like a Coke can, what emotions came over him? None at all. He just sat there with no expression whatsoever, like he had just blown a tire. Well, maybe Harjinder Singh needs to work on that. He needs to do a better job of expressing his emotions. That's all. Help him get in touch with his feelings and then get him back on the roads immediately. After, say, 2 therapy sessions. We'll make it 3 therapy sessions. Now, some supporters of Harjinder Singh also uploaded videos, many of which sounded oddly similar to one another, like they're passing around some sort of script. But watch, here it is.
I'm in support of Harjinder Singh. I know it was an accident. He made a terrible mistake, not a deliberate choice to harm anyone. He was working hard to support his family, like so many of us, and one wrong decision changed everything. A 45-year prison sentence is not justice.
It's Naprit. I support Harjinder Singh. It was an accident. He made a terrible mistake.
It was an accident. He made a terrible mistake.
It was an accident. He made a terrible mistake, not a deliberate choice to harm anyone.
It was an accident. He made a terrible mistake, not a deliberate choice to harm anyone. He was working hard to support his family, like so many of us.
It was an accident. He was working hard to support his family.
I would like to support this petition because I don't think this is a fair sentencing. There was no motive behind this U-turn, illegal U-turn, and killing those 3 people. Did somebody took the black box of the data of the other vehicle, that whether the other person tried to stop the vehicle or not? Where was his? He was in care and control of his vehicle. I'm in insurance industry, and I know if you are in care and control.
I'm supporting this person because it was an accident, not a crime of intent. And one mistake should not raise an entire future of 45 years in prison is not a justice, it's cruelty.
Hi, my name is Rakira Singh. I am in support of Harjinder Singh. He make a mistake, but he didn't intend to murder. It was an accident. 45 years not a justice. Make a fair decision. So, please attend the.
Really sad for the victims. But can this case be taken with more compassion? He made a U turn by mistake, but license was issued by the state, and several other factors beyond his control are at play here.
They're harping on the idea that these three homicides weren't intentional. It was an accident, a terrible mistake, they say again and again and again. As far as we know, that's true that Harjinder Singh didn't commit murder, in the sense that he didn't do this in order to kill people, as far as we know. But at the same time, it's fairly apparent that his actions, as depicted in the footage from his cab, led to the deaths of three people. I mean, that's unmistakable. And also that his actions were insanely reckless, making a U-turn on the highway from the right lane is the kind of thing that's basically guaranteed to kill people. And if you want to have an ordered, functioning society, then people who engage in extremely reckless behavior like this, to the point that they wipe out entire families, belong in prison for as long as possible. If you valued the lives of American citizens, that wouldn't be a controversial statement. But apparently it's controversial in this case. Now, for their part, a group called United Sikhs, which says it's affiliated with the United Nations, posted this message, quote, "We are saddened by the loss of life in the tragic accident that occurred in Florida on August 12th. We grieve with the families impacted and offer our condolences. We're also in touch with the family of the accused, Harjinder Singh, and are advocating for equity and that the law must be appropriately and uniformly applied, and those threatening and spewing discriminatory rhetoric and disinformation must be held to account. We call on everyone to come together in times of tragedy rather than exploit them for political grandstanding and furthering personal agendas." So the United Sikhs are calling for equity, and they say that if you're saying mean words online about Harjinder Singh, then you're the one who needs to be held to account. They don't say that Harjinder Singh should be held to account for killing three people. Instead, you need to suffer because of your speech. The problem isn't that he killed three people, it's that you are upset about that and saying mean things about him in response to it. That is the overwhelming response from this community at the moment. That's what they're saying in their statements, the videos, petitions. It's worth mentioning that there is a counter petition on change.org entitled Deport Supporters of Harjinder Singh's Commutation. So that one is saying that if you're a foreign national and you think it's okay for foreign nationals to kill Americans on the roadway, then you should be deported, which I totally agree with. And that one only has around 16,000 supporters, so we got to get those numbers up. In any event, what you also may have noticed about this petition and these videos is that they bear a very strong resemblance to the Carmelo Anthony fundraiser on Give, Send, Go. For stabbing a white athlete at a track meet, Carmelo Anthony has now raised more than $500,000. And as we previously discussed, many of the comments were explicitly anti-white in nature. Here's just a quick refresher of the comments on Carmelo's Give, Send, Go. Quote, "These white people can die mad like they ancestors did." Another quote says, "These crackers need to understand that we are not our ancestors and they will reap what they sow. I hope the knife made a full recovery." Another one said, quote, "White people have put so much evil in the earth, you have the right to protect yourself, Carmelo." Quote, "I love when we stand up for each other." And on and on and on. We've seen similar levels of tribalism with the outpouring of support in the Somali community for Colonel Ibrahim Dairi. As we previously discussed, the Somali Community Center wrote a letter of support for Dairi even after he was convicted for abducting and sexually assaulting a child. And then on top of that, prosecutors reported that Somalis were threatening to kill the mother of the victim. Now, they're not doing any of this because they think Dairi is a good person or because he was wrongfully convicted or any of that. They're doing that because he's Somali. And so are they, and that's what matters to them. Now, the people in the video about Harjinder Singh that we played earlier, to give them some credit, weren't quite this explicit, but the thrust of their argument was the same, which is we stand up for our own. That's why there's a petition with millions of signatures and dozens of impassioned on-camera pleas on behalf of a truck driver who just killed 3 Americans. Now, they're not worried about the specifics of U.S. sentencing law or how this case will turn out or road safety. They don't care about the possibility that other foreign truck drivers will kill more Americans in the future. They don't value American lives the same way they value the lives of their own people. That's very clear. And therefore, whatever punishment is imposed on Harjinder Singh, in their view, is too severe. Now, the only conclusion we can draw from the cases of Carmelo Anthony and Harjinder Singh and dozens like it is that, again, tribalism is a basic fact of human nature. What American leaders call bigotry and white supremacy is practiced all over the world, all the time, in service of other ethnicities and national identities. And more importantly, it's practiced by tens of millions of people who we've allowed into this country. Our immigration system for decades has denied the basic fundamental reality of tribalism. But the truth is simply undeniable at this point. People who want to survive, who value their own culture and civilization, will defend and prioritize their own, often to the detriment of everybody else. They will be unapologetic and relentless in their defense of their own interests, period. They will prioritize their own. And as a general rule, I don't blame them for it. Now, I don't think you should defend murderers and people who kill the innocent, but the general idea of prioritizing your own people and defending their interests, that makes sense. That's what you should do. And if there's any lesson we can draw from all this, it's that if we want to survive, Americans have no choice but to adopt the very same attitude. Now let's get to our 5 headlines. More than 90% of Americans don't get enough fruits, vegetables, and fiber in their diet. We're all basically walking nutritional disasters. That's where Balance of Nature supplements come in. These aren't your typical synthetic vitamins with names you can't pronounce. We're talking about 47 whole ingredients, 16 fruits, 15 vegetables, plus spices and fibers. Real stuff like wild blueberries, kale, turmeric, and mushrooms. I've taken the fruits and veggie supplements for a while now. Honestly, it's nice knowing that I'm getting that variety without having to turn my kitchen into a produce section, especially handy to have while traveling as well. Plus, their fiber and spice blend is the only supplement on the market combining 12 spices with 4 whole fibers. Look, I'm not saying this replaces eating actual vegetables. I'm not a monster. I would never suggest such a thing. But when life gets crazy and your diet consists mainly of whatever doesn't require cooking, well, it's nice knowing you're still getting healthy ingredients with Balance of Nature. They're vegan, kosher, gluten-free, and made with zero artificial anything. Just nature doing what nature does best. Go to balanceofnature.com. Use promo code Walsh for 35% off your first order for a customer. Plus, get a free bottle of fiber and spice. That's balanceofnature.com, promo code Walsh. You ever wondered why elite athletes, business moguls, and high performers are using Armra colostrum? Well, it's because Armra colostrum packs over 400 natural nutrients that work at the cellular level to build muscle, speed recovery, and boost performance. No artificial stuff, just pure fuel for whatever you're tackling. Think of it as your body's natural defense system upgrade. It strengthens your immune barriers throughout your entire body while supporting your gut wall system for better digestion, less bloating, plus helps your body absorb nutrients more effectively and keeps your metabolism running smoothly. You also notice the difference in your skin's radiance thanks to natural antioxidants and collagen-boosting compounds. Plus, there's a reason elite athletes have been using colostrum for years. It enhances endurance and speeds up recovery so you can bounce back faster. Bottom line, Armra colostrum gives your body comprehensive support to thrive naturally. We've worked out a special offer for my audience. Receive 30% off your first subscription order. Go to armra.com/Walsh or enter Walsh to get 30% off your first subscription order. That's armra.com/Walsh. So Zohran Mamdani, the frontrunner to be the next mayor of New York City, showed up at an event called Men's Day and decided to show off his bench pressing skills at this event. So that'll be interesting. Let's watch that. Here it is.
You move up in the polls. how you move up in the polls. Yeah. Yeah. Let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. Yeah. Let me get one more. Let me get three. Let me get three. Let me get three. Yeah.
So you saw there, Mamdani needs assistance to get the bar up. He's only able to do 2 reps with assistance the whole time. It appears there are 2 45s on the bar, 2 45-pound plates. So that would mean he was bench pressing 135 pounds. And for those who aren't familiar, just so you know, 135 pounds for a bench press is a very small amount of weight. I mean, it'd be one thing if you're doing it for reps, if you're doing it to warm up or something like that, but maxing out at 135 and you need help from 2 spotters is a very sad state of affairs. It's weak for a grown man. Now, a lot of people are focusing on the fact that Mamdani is such a puny, weak, pathetic, sad little man. They're saying that any man who maxes out at 135 should be legally barred from running for office. And I agree with all that, of course. I mean, that's true. I mean, arguably, you shouldn't be allowed to vote as a man if you can't bench press more than 135 pounds. I've said before that voting should require like a quick test in civics, and there should be other requirements as well. You know, you're a tax-paying citizen, you're not on any entitlements, all those things. But maybe maybe a quick, maybe you should have a bench press there in the just outside the voting booth. But I think the greater point here is, again, how out of touch the Democrat Party is. And you really couldn't think of a better way to encapsulate and illustrate the party's problem with men than the video that I just played. And it's because here, it's not just that Mamdani has the physical fitness of a toothpick. That's not just it. It's not just that he would lose an arm wrestling match against my 5-year-old daughter. That's not the point. I mean, that's part of the point, but that's not the whole point. It's that this video exists at all. I mean, if you can't put up real weight, if you don't have a lot of upper body strength, and so you can't bench press very much. Well, okay, why would you do this on camera? The only reason to bench press on camera, especially as a politician, is if you're trying to impress the voters, particularly men. That's the only reason to do it. There's no other reason to do it. But if you can't throw up real weight, then why do it? It would be like if you just decided randomly to take a geography quiz on camera, and then it turns out that you can't even point to North America on a map. Why? You could just not do that and nobody would know. Why highlight that fact about yourself? Doesn't make any sense. And the answer is that Democrats are so out of touch with men that they don't even know that they don't know what qualifies as an impressive bench press. Like they're so out of touch with men that they're so clueless about the culture of young men that they think 135 pounds will impress them. So it's kind of the, it's the equivalent of, we've played before, the photos and videos of politicians, usually Democrat politicians. I think some Republicans have done this, where they're trying to appeal to male voters. So they take a picture of themselves standing over a grill. Except you can tell the grill isn't even turned on. I think there was that one. Who was it? Chuck Schumer, I think, who had raw beef patties on a grill that was not turned on, and there was cheese already on them. So he's making a cheeseburger with raw patties. Again, so out of touch with men that they don't even know how to fake it. That's what's so amazing about it. Like, I would have had more, I think I would have had more respect for Mamdani if he staged a photo of himself benching what looked like 225 pounds, but it turned out that the weight plates were fake. That there was was like it was helium. They were balloons. I think I'd have more respect for that because at least it would show that you're in touch with men enough to know what would impress them. So it at least shows that much. It's like if Chuck Schumer had staged a photo where he's standing over a grill with what looks like perfectly grilled chicken breast. And maybe it's fake because maybe someone else did it, but he took credit. If I didn't know it was fake, I'd be impressed because chicken breast is one of the hardest meats to grill. It's very finicky. It's like very easy to overdo it and you end up with dried out chicken. So it's a really hard thing to do well. And even if I found out that the picture was fake, I would at least know that Chuck Schumer or his team, I would at least know that even if he doesn't have the grill skills, that there's a certain level of awareness, at least, that's commendable. As opposed to these pictures of guys grilling like frozen hamburger patties, which is, it's almost impossible to screw that up. They still find a way to screw it up. But frozen hamburger patties on a grill, that's the 135-pound bench press of the outdoor grilling world. So that's the point here. These people are totally out of touch. They're so clueless about men, about masculinity and male culture that they don't even know how to pander to men successfully. And so that's the entire problem that Democrats have with men, sort of encapsulated right there. All right, moving on to another story related to this same guy, unfortunately. The New York Post reports Democratic mayoral frontrunner Zohran Mamdani and his comrades at the Democratic Socialists of America want to wipe out the enforcement of all misdemeanor offenses, the Post has learned. In its most recent platform, the group blasts policing and detention as instruments of class war designed to guarantee the domination of the working class and demands an end to what it calls the criminalization of working class survival. According to the National Party's latest platform, for all the working class to achieve collective liberation, we must constrain, diminish, and abolish the carceral forces of the state, from prisons and police themselves to their manifestations in all forms throughout society. On the campaign trail, Mamdani has repeatedly called for the police to stop focusing on what he refers to as non-serious crimes. He said in a campaign video posted to X on Wednesday that police have a critical role to play, but right now we're relying on them to deal with the failures of our social safety net, which is preventing them from doing their actual jobs. Now, obviously, it's insane to end the enforcement of misdemeanors. I don't think I need to explain why that's a problem. And keep in mind, when we talk about misdemeanors, we're not talking about jaywalking, okay? Even though I think the laws against jaywalking also should be enforced. But we're talking about things like theft, shoplifting, assault. These all can be, and very often are, misdemeanors. Disorderly conduct, disturbing the peace, harassment. Again, these are often misdemeanors. So in other words, most of the uncivilized criminal behavior that makes living in a big city these days so miserable are misdemeanors. Most of the bad behavior that can negatively impact your daily life, especially if you live in one of these places, are misdemeanors. So if you end enforcement of those crimes, you get even more of that, and your daily life becomes all the more miserable. Because the idea is, well, they're just misdemeanors. I mean, they're not really affecting people's lives that much. No, again, if you're living in one of these places, most of the stuff that makes your life miserable, that's misdemeanors. It's a whole bunch of it. It's a whole lot of people doing this stuff all the time. So if anything, it should go the other way. I mean, if it were up to me, I would make all shoplifting a felony. I would make all drunk and disorderly conduct a felony. I would make it a felony every time some drugged out vagrant starts disturbing or threatening normal people on the subway or on the sidewalk. I'd make all that stuff felonies if it was up to me. So in a way, I guess I'd also end the enforcement of misdemeanors, but only because I'd be turning all of them into felonies. But Mamdani wants to go the other way, which, as we've established, is completely insane. But what I really want to focus on is this part. Reading it again, it says, in its most recent platform, the group blasts policing and detention as instruments of class warfare designed to guarantee the domination of the working class. The criminalization of working class survival. For all the working class to achieve collective liberation, we must constrain, diminish, and abolish the carceral forces of the state, from prisons and police themselves to their manifestations in all forms throughout society. So, working class, right? That's the refrain. The refrain that this is being done for the working class, and that's the most ridiculous part about it, because they want to have less law and order, no law and order, and they frame it as a pro-working class position. It's for the sake of the working class. And when you enforce the law, in particular when you enforce these supposedly non-serious, the laws against these supposedly non-serious crimes, which are often quite serious, that this is a criminalization of the working class. That's the claim. But exactly the opposite is true. The left's pro-crime policies are not enacted for the sake of the working class. They are an attack on the working class, because the working class are the ones who suffer the most. They're the ones who take the brunt of these kinds of crimes. Because when we say, and this is an important point, when we say working class, what do we mean? Well, what we should mean when we say that, we should be referring to people who work. Now, when politicians use the term working class, they usually mean anyone who earns under a certain arbitrary income threshold. So whatever that income threshold is, everybody under that qualifies as working class, and everybody above it is not working class. But that is not true, or at least that distinction makes no sense. Because not everybody under that income threshold actually works. And so when we say working class, we should be talking, again, if you work for a living, you're working class. By definition, you're in the class of people where you have to work a job in order to survive. You go out every day and you work a job and you do this. Right. So if you're so rich that you don't have to work at all, then you're not working class. But on the other end of it, right, if you're a welfare queen and you don't have a job, you're not working class. If you rely on EBT to feed you, you're not working class. The cracked out vagrant on the subway is not working class. This is someone who does not work. How could you be working class if you don't work? So the people who are committing most of these crimes in the city are not working class. They don't work. They don't have jobs. The people who just walk in and casually shoplift from Walgreens, the people who have made it so that the shampoo at Walmart has to be locked behind glass, that's not working class people have done it. Working class people have jobs, okay? So they'll go in and buy their own damn shampoo because you have a job. And you can afford to buy shampoo, and also you're not going to risk your livelihood because you're an adult with a job. You probably have a family. You're not going to risk that for the sake of buying shampoo. The people that are doing that, but that are stealing shampoo, these are not working class people. These are people that don't have jobs. So the victims of these crimes are the working class. And once again, when I say working class, I mean it. You're a normal person. You work for a living. That, in my mind, that makes you work. I don't know how else. I don't know how else to define the term if that doesn't make you working class. By definition, you're in the class of people where you work for a living. You're working class. Working class people are not shoplifting. Okay, they're not randomly stealing like a bike that was. They're not doing that. They're not getting drunk and stumbling down the street and shouting at random people. They're not doing that. They're not doing the shoplifting. They do work at and also own the stores where the shoplifting is happening. Working class people are not harassing commuters on the train. They are the commuters on the train. Working class people are not mugging random pedestrians. They are the pedestrians. Working class people don't steal cars. They get their cars stolen, and so on and so on. So strictly enforcing the law, restoring law and order, those are pro-working class positions. That's what you do if you care about the working class. And you do things that make their lives better and safer and easier. All right, one other thing I wanted to mention. This is pretty funny. On Friday, ESPN tweeted a little collage that they had made. They were very proud of this collage. At least they were proud of it at first. And I'll put it up on the screen. You can see it there. The caption says, "All the icons, all the moments, all of ESPN, all in one place." And then you see the little collage, little illustrations of all the sports icons that you can find if you watch ESPN. And many people notice something strange about these sports icons that they put up on the in their collage. Namely, there are a lot of women on this poster. There are 3 women right there, front and center in the poster. And then many more, which is strange because with maybe 1 or 2 exceptions, every sports icon in the country is a man. Almost all the sports icons in history have been men. Most people can't even name more than like 1 or 2 female athletes. And yet it seems like half of this poster is comprised of women. There were some other commentators that saw this tweet from ESPN, and they actually did the counting. And apparently there are 11 WNBA players on ESPN's sports icon poster. 11 of them. Guess how many NFL players? 10. So according to ESPN, the WNBA is more iconic and has more iconic players than the NFL. The NFL, by far the most popular league in the country, somehow has fewer icons than the WNBA, even though like a casual sports fan could probably name 15 NFL players that are currently playing pretty easily, if not more. How many WNBA players could a casual sports fan name? 1, Caitlin Clark, and that's pretty much it. And by the way, just to drive the point home, the NFL averages about 18 million viewers per game. The WNBA, on the other hand, right now getting record ratings, record for the WNBA, gets about 600,000. So that's 18 million to 600,000. The WNBA, even in the playoffs, they get about, and this again is a record, but they get 1.2, 1.3 million. NFL playoffs get 40 million. The Super Bowl gets 130 million. And yet you'd never know that based on this ESPN ad. And that's just the NFL, by the way. They also left off a bunch of other iconic male athletes. Scottie Scheffler, the most dominant golfer in the last 20 or 30 years. I don't follow golf, but I know that at least. He didn't make the cut. Couldn't find room for him in between all the WNBA players. They even put female sportscasters on this poster. An ESPN personality named Monica McNutt made the, which yes is a funny name, but she made the poster. And in fairness, I will say, and I didn't even see this, some people were passing it around in reaction to this. This was from last football season, or I don't know, back in the summer. But so I didn't see this when it happened, but she did have an iconic moment. This sportscaster did last year or several months ago. Here it is. Watch this.
Good morning. It's morning. How you doing?
Feeling good, man. Excited. Flew here for this. I'm up. I know I'm doing this is early. I'm up though. Jeez.
Well, it's a blast for us to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us. All right, so the jersey. Let's get into it because obviously this ties to one Shador Sanders who balled out in his first preseason. I'm sorry. I apologize. Barry Sanders.
Yes, that was a woman who talks about sports for a living. who thought that a Barry Sanders jersey was a Shedeur Sanders jersey. This is a sports journalist who apparently has never heard of Barry Sanders. Okay, I'm trying to think of if you're not a football fan, I'm trying to think of a way to, a frame of reference. It'd be like if your heart surgeon couldn't tell the difference between a heart and your liver. Okay, it's like that. And the consequences aren't quite as dire, but still, it's like that. Barry Sanders is one of the top 5 or 10 players of all time and in the NFL, and this woman who works in sports could not identify his jersey. Yet she's an icon. She's an icon of sports. A legendary figure, more legendary than Barry Sanders himself, apparently. Now, hilariously enough, ESPN did end up deleting this post just simply because they got bullied for it, which is always fun. But the fact that it was ever made at all, the fact that it ever existed, only goes to show how absolutely determined these people are to feminize everything. You know, so this is another example. Anyone who says that wokeness is dead, it's not. I wish it was, but it's not. And it can never be. As long as leftism exists, wokeness will exist because they're one and the same. And this also explains why, like, ESPN is probably the wokest company in all of media and entertainment. Uber woke. And not becoming any less so. Okay, they have not, like, if wokeness died, ESPN did not get the memo because they're still leaning into this stuff. Absolutely. And why are they so woke? It's because they're trying they're in the sports world. And so they're trying to counteract the aggressive, unrelenting maleness of sports. Sports are an inherently masculine thing. And so that's what they're up against. Now, it's easy enough to feminize, action films and superhero movies and so on. Those movies don't do well, but you can make a movie with a female action hero who can beat up, a bunch of male bad guys and all that kind of stuff. You can do that because it's all fake. But in sports, it's different. And so, like, no matter what they do, no matter how much they insist, we're just never going to live in a world where females are more dominant athletes or more iconic athletes, where people are more interested in female sports than male sports. We're never going to live in that world. We can't live in it because this is just a biological reality. And that's the thing that ESPN is bumping up against. And so to compensate for that, they have to be even, they have to go even farther on the woke train. And to sometimes quite hysterical results like this. Big Bird is dead. Well, maybe not literally, but PBS just lost its government funding, which means say goodbye to taxpayer-funded woke programming. MSNBC panicked over the idea that without Elmo and other left-wing programming, America's families might, gasp, turn to PragerU instead. And they're right to be worried because every day, more and more people are turning away from woke content and finding truth, values, and common sense through PragerU. Here's the thing. PragerU doesn't take a dime from Washington. Every dollar comes from people like you who care about truth, values, and raising kids who think for themselves. PragerU videos reach millions of people every single day, especially young people, and they're changing minds at scale. Parents are noticing, families are rejecting indoctrination and finding content they can actually trust, stories about faith, freedom, and personal responsibility, lessons your tax dollars will never teach. And the best part is, it's all free, but PragerU can't grow without your help. If you want to make an impact on the next generation, this month is the perfect time to support PragerU. Every dollar given will be triple matched. That's right, tripled. Donate now at PragerU.com/DW and triple the impact of your gift. That's PragerU.com/DW. We've been rolling out a lot of new content on DailyWire Plus. Journey to the UFC, Dr. Jordan Peterson's Answer the Call, Michael Knowles' new docuseries, The Pope and the Fuhrer, The Isabel Brown Show, premiering September 8th, And now another announcement. To mark a decade of the Daily Wire, we're bringing the whole crew back together for a brand new show. Here's your first look at Friendly Fire.
September 10th, we celebrate the 10-year anniversary of the Daily Wire. 10 years of leftist tears. New shows, big moves, bigger targets. And first up is our newest show, Friendly Fire.
We're on the show?
This is it.
No safe words, no moderator.
My original proposal had been that Noel should be moderator. We all agree on that.
We're celebrating our first decade and kicking off the next 10 years by doing what we do best.
It's really true.
Picking arguments, starting fights, and filming the whole thing.
This is enough small talk, I think.
I got a little hungry. I hope that your wife made you that sandwich.
Oh my God.
I think we do need a moderator, just a programming note.
September 10th on Daily Wire.
Friendly Fire premieres live September 10th on Daily Wire Plus. If you're not a member yet, now's the time. Go to dailywireplus.com, use code SUMMER, and save 40% on a new annual membership. Now let's get to our daily cancellation. Our daily cancellation today begins with a terrifying moment at the University of South Carolina last night. Reports of an active shooter. I'll read some of the reporting from MSN.com. Quote, students at the University of South Carolina were thrown into chaos on Sunday evening. Sirens blared, emergency alerts lit up phones, and terrified undergraduates barricaded themselves inside classrooms and dorms as armed police stormed the Thomas Cooper Library for more than 90 minutes. Fear gripped the campus. At about 6:30 p.m. local time, the university issued a Carolina alert warning of an active shooter suspected to be near the campus library. The alert described the suspect as a white male, approximately 6 feet tall, wearing black trousers. Students and staff were told to evacuate if safe to do so or to barricade themselves inside classrooms and dormitories. Panic spread quickly across the Columbia campus as police arrived and began a floor-by-floor search of the library. Now, while this was all going on, videos were widely circulating on social media of a guy walking casually around campus carrying an alleged rifle. And we'll put some of those videos up on the screen right now. You can see them right now. This terrifying footage went viral on X, thanks in large part to the efforts of Representative Nancy Mace, who wants to be the governor of South Carolina. And she was all over this thing. She was tweeting frantically about it. She repeatedly identified this guy as the suspected shooter. She posted a video of this kid along with this caption. Here's the alleged school shooter at USC, Bolo, white male, black shorts, gray t-shirt, backpack. And then again, she tweeted, active shooter, University of South Carolina, Columbia campus, school library, white male, 6 feet tall, black shorts, gray shirt. So like I said, she was all over this. And that makes sense. You know, it's important to get the word out. Get the word out about a guy carrying a rifle on campus. A rifle that looks weirdly skinny and pointy. It appears that this rifle has a handle at the bottom and then kind of a flares out a little bit and then comes to a point. Actually, the rifle looks almost exactly like an umbrella. Actually, it turns out the rifle is an umbrella. The guy identified by Nancy Mace as the alleged shooter was carrying an umbrella. So it appears, and I don't think there's been official confirmation on this, the police looked into it. There was no shooter. So it was all a false alarm. And Nancy Mace and others on social media were identifying this guy as the shooter. It appears that the panic, the lockdown, the major police response, that all of that was actually a reaction to a guy holding an umbrella. Now here's that same kid later in the night showing off his umbrella. You can see it there. Sure enough, that's no rifle. Now, I know you might be thinking, well, this was a whole lot of chaos over an umbrella. And also, you're probably thinking a lawmaker who wants to be governor just falsely accused a private citizen of being a mass shooter because he was carrying an umbrella. I mean, shouldn't there be some kind of accountability for that? Shouldn't she at least apologize for that, which she has not done? Well, to the latter point, I'll only say that, yes, Nancy Mace, her actions were reckless, irrational, could have gotten somebody killed. But at least she managed to send multiple tweets in a row without posting a selfie. So look at the bright side. I mean, I would have expected all of Nancy's tweets about the alleged shooting to be accompanied by a picture of herself looking sad while showing off her cleavage. Instead, she went the entire night without posting a single selfie, as far as I know. So that's a personal record for Nancy, and we should congratulate her for it. Second, I think this whole story, just to get serious for a moment, provides us with a crucial opportunity to have a real conversation about common sense umbrella control. You know, the type of umbrella this kid was carrying around simply should not be permitted. That was a fully automatic assault umbrella. Now, how do we differentiate assault umbrellas from regular umbrellas? Well, obviously, assault umbrellas are the ones that look super scary. If people are scared of an umbrella, that means it's an assault umbrella. Even if the umbrella isn't used to physically assault anyone, it still assaults our feelings, our sense of security, our peace of mind. And this is why, as I've argued for years, every umbrella should have an old-fashioned curved handle. It should look like the kind of umbrella that people might have used in the 18th century. I mean, after all, when our founding fathers gave us the right to carry umbrellas, they never imagined a world where these newfangled, modern, scary, all-black umbrellas would exist. If an umbrella doesn't look like the kind of umbrella that Benjamin Franklin might have used, it doesn't belong on the street. Only trained professionals, people who use umbrellas as part of their job, should be allowed to use the kind of umbrella that the University of South Carolina student was carrying around. That kind of umbrella should be reserved for umbrella specialists, like crossing guards, golf caddies, that sort of thing. Now, you can make the argument that no one should have an umbrella, really. Why do you need one anyway? If it's raining, wear a raincoat. Grab a poncho. Better just stay inside. I mean, frankly, I'm suspicious of anyone who feels the need to own an umbrella. I mean, you have a roof on your house. Why do you need to carry a little roof around with you? And it's bizarre. If nobody owned an umbrella, we could avoid tens of thousands of umbrella-related injuries annually. And according to some estimates, more than 89,000 people suffer severe facial lacerations and eye injuries every year because of umbrellas. That's not even counting the dozens of people who are comically blown away by the wind, like cartoon characters, because they were carrying umbrellas and then it gets windy. And I know these statistics sound made up, and they are, but that's beside the point. What if they weren't made up? What if it were true that umbrellas kill more people every year than cancer and heart disease combined? That's a scary thought. And if we don't get our umbrella problem under control and enact some common sense regulations, that nightmare could soon become a reality. And that's why ultimately I'm grateful for the work Nancy Mace has done to raise awareness about the threat of unregulated umbrellas. She never led the charge against gender ideology like she claims all the time. But on this issue, she is unquestionably the leader. And that is why, in honor of Nancy Mace, we must say that umbrellas are today canceled. That'll do it for the show today. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Talk to you tomorrow. Have a great day. Godspeed.
Hey there, I'm DailyWire Executive Editor John Bickley.
And I'm Georgia Howe, and we're the hosts of Morning Wire.
We bring you all the news you need to know in 15 minutes or less.
Watch and listen to Morning Wire 7 days a week, everywhere you get your podcasts.